Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Mid Ohio Sports Car Course located in real life in Lexington, Ohio. And today, this 2.4-mile, 13-corner layout is going to play host to the second race of the 2020 Summer Series for the A-Maxx Racing eSports Series for the World Karting Association, presented by Summit Racing Equipment. Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Brennan, along with Marco Barbanera, again for the second race of 4 of the second installment of eSports competition with the World Karting Association. And our first race actually took place about 2 weeks back, maybe 3 weeks ago. It was scheduled to run straight through 4 weeks in a row. However, due to some other travel commitments that came up for a number of our esports participants, series officials elected to push the schedule out by a couple of weeks. That also favored some of those who suffered storm damage a couple of weeks back when a nasty front came up the east coast of the United States. Thus, we are ready to go and get back in action. We're going to run 3 straight weeks to the finish. And the first track we're going to hit in that 3-race stretch is a very tough and technical Mid-Ohio sports car course. As I mentioned, joining me on the call, as he has been throughout most of the esports history with the WKA, Marco Barbanera, coming to us from overseas in Italy. And Marco, I don't know about you, I don't have much experience on the sim at this track, but judging by what I've seen in practice, it is tough, especially in this type of car.
Well, first of all, thank you, Eric, for introducing me tonight, and it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here with the World Karting Association once again. You know, I really like and love iRacing, especially because tracks like this, like Mid-Ohio, you know, it's one of those tracks that on paper I really didn't like, in the sense that I know it's great, it's a beautiful racetrack, but at a first glance, I really struggled around here. It's so tough, but you know, trying, in the end, it finally stuck to my head, and you know, it's I wouldn't say that I'm competitive, anything but competitive, but it's a pleasure to drive, and of course, especially the Skippy, which is great on every racetrack, especially this one. And even though it's not a track that usually favors overtaking, of course, with this car, anything is possible, because, you know, with the skip you can pass basically everywhere. So expect some exciting racing tonight, as we are in the last 3 minutes of qualifying. You can see Will Salisbury is holding provisional pole. There he is.
Yeah, one of the things we mentioned, it's been about 3 weeks since these drivers were on track in an esports competition with WK. Many of them racing, across the country in the real life form, and also a lot of them taking part in events on the sim as well, but not in this particular series for the last 3 weeks. So if you weren't with us back at Indy, which was our first race to kick off this series, Will Salisbury was one of the drivers to beat, and that was after he had such a successful run in the latter stages of the Winter Series that kicked things off. However, he was not able to get to victory lane. Well, that all changed at the first race that we had at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course on the sim as well. But he wasn't just the one driver to watch. As a matter of fact, reigning Winter Series champion Byron Daly did not make that opener. He's in the field tonight and taking part. In fact, he's second in the timing and scoring running order right now to Salisbury. And Carmine Caruso, who had an eventful heat race, eventful final. He ended up coming home second, but that was after he had to come from the back of the field on more than one occasion. So they have already set the stage for those three to be some of the drivers to watch and beat, but there is a lot of hungry competitors who are going to try to upset them for the top step on the podium once we get through our 35-minute final. But as Marco mentioned, we still got a handful of minutes left to go in qualifying. We're going to have a 15-minute heat race to give these drivers some more track time to set their lineup for that aforementioned event before we head into the point where not only the championship points in the series are on the line, but also a lot of prizes that are up for grabs as well. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment as we continue to watch the session wind down. Salisbury continues to be the driver to beat, with Tim Huss and Connor Kelly being the two drivers on track at the moment. Huss finished third in our first race out at Indianapolis, got a podium under his belt already, currently scored 7th in the session, trying to better it here as he heads up this long back straightaway.
Yeah, I think these two drivers, Kelly and Haas, are, basically, if this is not their last lap, I think might already be outside of the 4-lap maximum that they can run. But, every bit of track, Haas is really pushing hard, so we know every bit of track time absolutely matters. So just waiting for the clock to strike that 15-minute mark, and then we will be ready to go. Quick look at the weather, and as you can see, 106 is the track temperature, so decently hot, even though not as hot as I was expecting, as we are, of course, as you can see, in a late afternoon setting, so maybe the track is, with the sun going down, is slowly getting a bit more, bit colder than maybe it would have been if we were racing at 12 p.m. or 1 p.m.
As we enter the final minutes, good opportunity for me to mention that I had a chance to go out to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course about a month ago with the Sports Car Club of America in their Formula 4 and Formula Regional Americas Championship. And I'll tell you, that weekend, it was hot. Stayed in about the 90s all weekend long. And for a lot of the drivers and teams, they expressed how difficult this track is physically, especially that's usually the word that you hear when many of the IndyCar Series competitors make the annual trip to Mid-Ohio. Ironically, they were supposed to be out there last week, and that race got postponed. Not exactly sure when they'll be able to hit the track in 2020, but nevertheless, we're able to see from the naked eye just how physical this track is, even in the sim world, but how sideways all these drivers are. And there's a big off by Kelly in the final 15 seconds of the session, and it looks as though the time that Will Salisbury laid down of a 1 minute 36.92 second lap, exceptionally close, 600ths of a second faster than that of Byron Daly's quick lap time, is the margin, and it looks as though we're going to make it official, and that is going to be a pole position for that of Will Salisbury, and with that comes $25 cash, and that is courtesy of a number of presenting sponsors who are offering unique items and prizes up for grabs for this series. And that is the first bit of award that we're going to give out. And there you see our starting grid for heat number 1. The only heat that we're going to have with Salisbury and Daly on pole, Eli Warren and Casey Davis to row 2. Row 3, Jason Preble and Carmine Caruso driver to watch in the 6th spot. Tim Huss, 7th. Adam Maxwell, 8th. Austin Olds and Bane Bennett, your top 10, with Connor Kelly and Hugh Templeman taking you back to row 6 in 12th. The rest of the field sees that of Connor Kelly, Hugh Templeman, Quinn Ahrens, and Cooper Gall, and that is your 14-car field that will make up this, our second race of 4 on the season. Heat number 1 about to get underway with Salisbury and Daly, who've battled many a times, not in race 1, but they did in the latter portion of our first go-around with the A-Maxx Racing eSports Series presented by Summit. They're about to do so here at Mid-Ohio for this first heat race.
Pace car already on the racetrack, so we are just about waiting on the clock there on the top left to strike 2 minutes, which is the time that the drivers have to grid in iRacing. Of course, for the main event, the time that they will have will only be 1 minute, so minimal amount of time in between the end of Heat 1 and the start of the feature to make some adjustment. Now, thankfully for them, the Skip Barber, and thankfully for me as well as a driver, as a terrible driver who doesn't know a lot about setups, the Skip Barber has like 3 things that you can change, and most of the, basically you just run whatever you feel comfortable. There is no magic formula with the Skip Barber to go faster. It's just that you set up the car the way you feel comfortable with, and nothing more. So I'm pretty sure, you can easily bring a setup from one racetrack to the other with minimal changes, maybe a couple of clicks on the ride and nothing more. So I'm quite sure, Eric, these guys have their setups pretty dialed in. Very short pace lap on what is a very short lap, even for these little cars, and looks like we are ready to go.
Yeah, talking to some of the drivers pre-race, it seems as though that it's just a massive change in driving style in order to get these cars to navigate this tight and technical 2.4-mile course that has very little passing zones. And we'll see just how hard these drivers have to press to make up some ground. This is going to be the first time to see who can do that best. Salisbury ready to go as the pace car ducks to pit road. Our one and only heat race for 15 minutes on the clock is green, and your round 1 winner is gone. Breaking out to a 3-car length advantage to turn number 1 as Byron Daly's going to duck back in line. They're going to come up on the best passing zone. Got trouble behind. That's Eli Warren, the 3rd fastest car in qualifying, who has turned off the first corner and is now going to fall to the tail end of the pack while Salisbury leads him to the keyhole for the first time.
It little bit of drama here. You can see some bumping and banging there as they head for the first proper braking zone of the lap, and the top two have literally run away from the rest of the field. Some cones get completely destroyed there in the background.
We talk about not that many passing zones. This is another one. Byron Daly taking advantage of that 3,000-foot back straightaway to take the lead away from Salisbury through turn 4. Then they come through an area of the track they call China Beach, which is a set of left-handers before they come through turn 6. And here's part of the elevation change, 136 feet of elevation variations on this layout, and Byron Daly goes up and down the exit that leads him through the S's with the race lead by about a car length over that of Salisbury, but we saw how effective the draft was down that backstretch. We'll see what Carmine Caruso could do here after he had a very solid start, already up 2 spots, trying to get around Casey Davis for 3rd as the lead tightens up through the carousel, coming around to complete the first lap.
Lap 1 in the books, as you were saying. Daly from, and then Salisbury, Casey, Davis, Caruso, and Haas, your top 3, as Austin Olds is having a nightmare of a first lap, and he has lost 4 positions. As you can see, he is struggling a bit. As we go back to our leaders, and you can see we have 3 distinct packs, sorry, or maybe 4. The top 2, then 2nd and 4th, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, and 7th and 8th. They are running, you know. And also 9th and 10th. It reminds me of the days of, you know, the tandem drafting in super speedways in NASCAR.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Marco. It just kind of reminds you of where you have to work in pairs. And we see that sometimes at the karting track as Daly takes defensive line, approaching the right-hander at turn 4. Salisbury's going to try to rocket his way around the outside, but can't get the pass made. However, if these two are unwilling to play nice with one another, that may allow that second tandem to close up in Davis and Caruso, while Tim Huss also +2 early on. A lot of that in favor of that of the misfortune of Eli Warren. He's going to be fun to watch coming from the tail end of the pack, as we just saw that he ducked that car down pit road with significant damage. But we are on board now with Salisbury, trying to close up here down through one of the right-handed corners on Daly, keeping him honest as the laps click off. And for Daly, he's trying to do something which we almost saw, I believe it was either Nick Snell or Jake Drew do, and that is climb his way back up to the championship points despite missing a race in the series. Daly was not out for the season opener at Indianapolis. This is his first race of the series, and hopefully his schedule will allow him to continue on and compete for an opportunity at some of the championship prizes. And right now, he's flexing his muscle, although Salisbury in second just set the fastest lap of the heat race thus far as we work lap 3.
Beautiful 37.7, gaining 0.3 of a second over the duo behind them of Casey Davis and Carmine Caruso there, as Caruso goes for the move on the inside. A deceptively tough corner to pass this one, as they now go side by side. You can see Caruso had basically had to take the inside line, which didn't give him a lot of momentum, and now once again heading for the hard-braking right-hander, and once again Daly and Salisbury going at it.
This time, Daly is unable to defend the inside, but it doesn't matter. He protects the lead through the China Beach portion of the racetrack. Now coming through turn 6, which will set him up to the S's through turn 7 and 8. And Salisbury, despite having the preferred line to 4, could not complete the pass for the lead. And these two are still able to exercise a 2.3 second advantage over the new third-place runner in Carmine Caruso. We mentioned how Will Salisbury picked up that $25 Pole Award prize. Well, that's the prize in which Caruso took home back at Indy after setting the quick time in qualifying. But it was an incident in the heat race, an incident early in the going in the race that allowed him to charge up through the field and have to settle for second. The best shot he's going to have to try to close up and perhaps grab his first win of this series is to chase down and get around Daly and Salisbury, who continue to run 1 and 2 with just a couple of laps to go. He's 2.7 seconds back as the top two remain nose to tail out of 1.
2 laps to go in this first and only heat of the night, setting up the starting grid for the main event. Of course, we'll have time during the race, before the race, of course, to talk about other stuff, but if you're new to the series, don't be surprised if we see a competition caution during the main event. So definitely worth to stick around, even though I don't think that anyone will be able to pull away if this heat race is anything to go by for the main event, because it's so tough to shake away your opponent. And as you can see, once again, Daly and Salisbury going at it.
A lot of respect between these two after they've run close to the front or at the front throughout most of these esports races, and Caruso is able to gain a few tenths of a second while they jockey around for position. And how about that? Keep an eye on Eli Warren. Even though laps are running out, got a lap and a half to go in the heat, he just turned the fastest lap of this heat race. Now that he's got that car repaired, that is going to be a fun car to watch if he can navigate his way through the pack. And that competition caution that may come out during feature time could be the saving grace for Warren if he could pace himself at that portion of the event. Meanwhile, back at the front, looking back at Will Salisbury from Byron Daly, who slips a little bit here on corner exit. Looked as though Salisbury was going to mount a charge, just could not do it just yet, as we're going to be coming around to one lap to go as they come to the stripe. White flag. Daly flags out drivers left, tucks back in line. He just turned the fastest lap of the heat race, but Salisbury still got him in his gun sights as they approach the keyhole for what would be the last time in this heat race. As they head up towards turn number 2, it is Daly sliding his way through the right-hander, slips up a little bit, allows Salisbury a chance to utilize all the curbing to the right-hand side of the racetrack. And this is where the draft is most effective, 3,000 feet. Taking in consideration this right-handed kink at turn number 3, setting up for another right-hander at turn 4, where Salisbury may not be close enough as they close up to the braking points, and he cannot pull up alongside of Daly, who holds the lead to 4.
Playing it safe was Salisbury there, Eric. I think that he knows that you know, winning is always nice, but he doesn't want to compromise, as Warren once again 37.4. He doesn't want to compromise his starting position for the main event.
Have not had a chance to talk about some of the championship prizes and race prizes that are up for grabs in this series, but we do know that Byron Daly took down top honors. He's going to have his best opportunity working with the A-Maxx racing team when it comes down to Daytona Kart Week because of the success he had in this series back in the winter. Well, what does he have in store for us here in the Summer Series? He's a couple of corners away from starting it off. In fact, one corner away from kicking off his venture here in the second race of the season. And the heat race win at Mid-Ohio is going to go to Byron Daly, with Salisbury, the round 1 winner, coming home in second. That's going to be your front row for our 35-minute final. And Carmine Caruso is going to finish third.
37.048. For Byron Daly on that last lap. Let's see if Eli Warren can improve on that as the other competitors are coming on. Connor Kelly waiting on him, and also Quinn Arens and Cooper Goll. And then we will be good to go, and you will see the drivers will be immediately and unceremoniously dumped out of the racetrack. And very quickly the gridding procedure for the main event will begin. Of course, Warren has to make treasure of what happened to him in race 1 and be super careful at the start, as you were saying, because of course that competition caution can really help him. He has the pace to fight up front, but of course if he gets damaged once again, oh, look at that, 36.980, the first driver to go below the 137 mark. And so very, very quickly we should have the starting grid for the main event of the evening.
And we mentioned that Daly, virtue of that heat race win, going to start on pole, with Salisbury trying to go 2 for 2 to start the season. Starting alongside, Carmine Caruso is going to be third, and Casey Davis had a very strong start to the season thus far, fourth. Tim Huss looking for another podium after finishing third at Indy, and Adam Maxwell takes you to the outside of row 3. Then it's going to be Bane Bennett and Jason Preble, followed by Connor Kelly and Quinn Arens. Your top 10, Cooper Gall and Eli Warren going to be the car to watch. Third fastest in qualifying, starting all the way back in 12th. Austin Olds had some misfortune in the heat race as well, and Hugh Templeman is your field for this, the second race of 4 in the A-Maxx Racing Esports Series with the World Karting Association, presented by Summit Racing Equipment. And we are getting set for what will be another rolling start, with Byron Daly and Salisbury making up the front row.
Of course, iRacing has this unique feature that we have the rolling start on the normal start-finish line instead of that on the backstretch. code limitations. That's the same reason why we don't skip the chicane when we take the green flag at the Charlotte Roval, for example. So this makes things a little bit more complicated, especially because here we have such a massive compression, and we are ready to go.
So here they come for race 2 of the season with Daly and Salisbury leading them down for the start. 35 minutes or 16 laps, and a very tightly bunched field makes their way to turn 1 for the first time. Caruso the second, and a big crash behind him. Multiple cars involved.
Oh!
So
The car that was upside down, that was Adam Maxwell. He was scored in first for a second because he jumped all over the catch fence and went on the other side of the racetrack. Massive crash. We'll have a replay later.
Yeah, Marco, just saw one car flipping out of our vantage point, and it looks as though it was, in fact, Maxwell. He's currently shown in the pit area. Not sure who's able to get by. Looks as though Eli Warren, though, made the most of that. He's unofficially scored in 6th spot, while Daly leads. Salisbury trying to get back to 2nd as they hit the end of that backstretch, with Caruso slotting in 3rd and Davis in 4th. And we're on board with Caruso trying to make up some ground. We saw him go for 2nd position in turn 1. Could not cement the pass. And it's Daly, Salisbury, and Caruso, 3 of the drivers we mentioned we should keep our eye on, currently parading the field with a half lap in the books.
Carmine Caruso's fan club out in force there in the chat. Oh man, what a save there from Salisbury. He was all sorts of sideways. This may help Caruso to get the pass. Let's see, because this bunched up everyone from 2nd place backwards. But unfortunately for them, they are also losing time to Byron Daly.
Yeah, and Daly doing all that he can to try to break free. Got another crash in the carousel. 2 cars involved here. Quinn Ahrens is one of them, and Bane Bennett. You see obvious damage here to both cars. Bennett looks as though he's going to limp his way back to the pit area. So an eventful first lap. An incident in the first corner, an incident in the penultimate corner. Now let's go back and take a look at how some of this started. Right here at the drop of the green flag, you see Adam Maxwell way down to the inside. It looked as though he climbed up over the top of another car and immediately started cartwheeling his way across the sand trap at the exit of turn number 1. And an unfortunate start for Maxwell. And that may be it as far as he is concerned. Still showing him in the pit area. And now joining him back there is that of Ahrens. Huss, who is 3rd in round 1. All going on, though, behind that of Byron Daly, Salisbury, and Caruso. Looks as though Salisbury's trying to reel him back in a little bit here, though. But as Marco alluded to earlier, there will perhaps be a competition caution right about the halfway point of this race.
So all looks good for Eli Warren. I think he had a little bit of a moment, but he survived this time. Let's see the replay from lap 1.
We mentioned Warren, who had the trouble in the heat race. That put him back in the pack on the opening lap after qualifying 3rd. This is entering turn 4. Hang on. All 4 tires off into the grass. As you mentioned, Marco, only lost 2 spots, didn't lose the race car. He's able to battle back here for an opportunity at redemption. Already picked up 1 of the 2 spots that he lost. Now trying to make his way back up into the top 5 after starting all the way back in 12th spot with 3 laps complete. And Daly has led all the way.
Fantastic lap from Salisbury, 37.114, but we have seen these guys are capable of more. They can clearly break the 137 barrier, as there in the back Kelly and Templeman are going at it for the back end of the top 10. Austin Olds waiting in the wings there with that fully reflective livery, as you can see there, with a BMW livery, by the way. Absolutely lovely. But back to the front, because Caruso is now defending from a very, very tasty Casey Davis. And I say tasty, of course, because that Oreo livery at 2:30 in the morning in Italy, it's gives me a lot of anger. I mean, I want to go for a snack right now.
I'm right there with you, Marco. I'll be joining you for some of those Oreos at the end of this broadcast. I assure you that these two have been locked together throughout all of the heat race and now the opening 3.5 laps of this feature event. Behind them, Eli Warren has gotten around Jason Preibel for that 5th spot. That's going to move Warren now up into the top 5 for the first time in this race. And nobody may be looking forward to that competition caution before according in this field back together than that of Warren. And we mentioned some of the lucrative opportunities and prizes that are up for grabs, not just in this race before the championship. It's a great time to mention some of those while the top two still have about 3 car lengths of separation. We mentioned $25 going to the pole sitter in that of Will Salisbury after setting the fast time in qualifying. The race winner is also going to get $25 cash, courtesy of Aaron and Julie Christ of Louis P&R Italian Deli. We also have $20 going through second to fifth in the final running order. That courtesy of RevBranding.com. And the race winner is going to be able to take home 1 case of brake clean. All 3 podium finishers are going to go home with a $25 Summit Racing Equipment gift certificate. And second place each week will receive 1 pack of spark plugs, that courtesy of the Olds family. And while Salisbury tries to reel in Byron Daly at the end of the back straightaway, let's talk about what these drivers are vying for in the championship, which Salisbury leads coming into the race weekend. A-Maxx Racing free tent space in 2021 in the Manufacturers Cup Series. That includes that of driver coaching, kart transportation to and from Indianapolis, also chassis tuning assistance, and $50 courtesy of the Bennett family. Second place will get $35 thanks to the Bennett family, and $15 will go to the third place driver in points when all's said and done after we get through our 4 races. That also from the Bennett family. Thank you to all of our sponsors for giving these drivers more to chase than just pride. And that is what the top 2 have in mind, with Daly and Salisbury now back together again with a lap car up ahead of the leader.
Yes, that should be Adam Maxwell. Yeah, there is 1 minute 34. Of course, probably if we have the competition caution, we'll have some wave arounds, but you know, you always want to stay in front of the leaders, even though, if you remember, as 36.9 for Byron Daly, from what happened in the... Oh, here we go, caution. Perfect. So I was about to make a big, you know, statement and reminiscing about the lap car situations we had in the, you know, in the March and April series that we had a few months ago, but that of course goes out of the window because the caution is out, and therefore Adam Maxwell will be able to sprint away from the leaders, and we can rest and relax a bit while the field will become once again very, very compact and ready for the restart. A bit earlier than expected, Eric, this competition caution, sorry.
Yeah, earlier as opposed to what we've seen thus far. However, it is a saving grace for the fact of Adam Maxwell was about to get overtaken by Byron Daly, the race leader. We'll see how long this yellow flag lasts. We don't expect to flirt with the 35-minute time limit. I believe we're going to get all 16 laps of this race in, especially being that we've been able to stay green throughout the most part. And this should be the one and only competition caution that we see in this race. Also, word comes down from the officials that car number 99 was assessed a 30-second penalty due to some contact that took place earlier. That was that of Bane Bennett, who is currently on the pit lane after being involved in one of the earlier incidents, one of the few incidents that we've seen so far that swept up numerous drivers. And we'll go back here and take a look at some of what took place a little bit earlier on in this race.
Bennett and Arens, if you remember from the, I think, end of the first lap, but I think Bane also had a moment a few seconds earlier, or I might be mistaken. There he was. Went a bit wide here, and then okay, that's what caused the crash. But what I see is a resume being pretty uneventful, but of course, as you were saying, penalty for him, and of course now he has been overtaken by Maxwell, and now he is back on the racing track, so he too will be in front of the leaders and in front of the pace car. They have to hurry up a bit because, as you can see, they are 1:35 behind the leader, and the leader is just a couple of corners behind them with the pace car. They should be able to get back to them, but of course the problem when you get a caution in a big track with these little cars is that you have to push super hard to catch back to the pace car if you are you know, almost a lap down.
You got to hope they have enough caution time to be able to catch up to the tail end of the pack, especially on a track that is relatively short compared to some of the other natural terrain road courses that are on the sim. Just want to clear one thing up. We mentioned that Bane Bennett getting a 30-second penalty. It was actually for an unsafe re-entry to the racetrack. Apparently pulled out in front of a couple of other cars. It was not for that contact. I misspoke on that earlier, so I apologize. However, we've got that squared away with the officials. And again, that will be assessed after the checkered flag as we go back here and see that incident again, which swept up Quinn Ahrens and, looked as though that Quinn did everything possible to avoid the back end of Bennett's car. However, it appears that after one of the incidents, it was when Bennett pulled out in front of traffic, might have even been a little bit later on or after coming out of the pit area
I,
that penalty was assessed.
I think they are referring to this moment here because he went off on the grass, and then when he rejoined, he caused Quinn to basically almost having to avoid him. As you can see, this was what created the collision. So I think they maybe were thinking, maybe rightfully, that when he made it back to the track, he shouldn't have gone like straight back into the racing line, which is basically, I think, what created the contact there. As a real life track marshal, corner worker myself, I really appreciate how tough it is to take decisions. And when we spot something from our vantage point during the races, we always take, quite a bit of internal discussion between us, or when I usually work pit lane. So you really have to think hard about what you're watching. And if that is illegal or not, and of course if it is worthy of being reported, in the sense that it is an infraction or not. And of course when you're there, you don't have the luxury of having instant replay, so when you make a call, it better be the right one. So I know how tough it is to make decisions. I remember once we had to give a black and orange flag to a bike that was smoking bits, when it was braking for a corner in my local track in Vallelunga, and we took 3 laps, because of course we only saw it go past once per lap. And then, the first time we saw a bit of smoke, but maybe we were wrong. The second time it was, 50-50, then the third time we saw the, big smoke, and then we contacted the race control. It's so tough to get to make these decisions, because you can ruin someone's race in an instant.
Yeah, and we already went through the illustrious list of items that are up for grabs. More than just the bragging rights, the availability to go to bed tonight knowing that you beat some of the drivers who represent the World Karting Association on a grand scale. And with that in mind, all the series officials and directors who are overseeing these events are officiating them in the same manner and fashion in which they would handle one of their real life events. And that is, they're being diligent and checking everything and knowing that there is so much that has gone into making these events happen. They want to make sure that the results are in final formation as fair as possible. Looks as though the pace car is going to stay out at least one more lap. So it gives us a chance to do a little bit of housekeeping on our end. And note the fact that Byron Daly, who won the heat race earlier tonight, has been able to hold off the field. And by the field, we mean that in the quick time setter of Will Salisbury. Now, these two broke away from the pack. However, Carmine Caruso has been quick pretty much all season long, with Casey Davis and Eli Warren rounding out your top 5. Now, don't forget, Warren started all the way back in 12th. He avoided the 2 big accidents that took place in the opening lap, one in turn number 1, one in turn 12 at the entry of the carousel. And after avoiding all that contact, which was contrary to how the race began for him in Heat 1, and we'll go back and take a look at Eli Warren's vantage point through some of this chaos, after he is having a spectacular run up through the pack. And remember, he timed in 3rd in qualifying. He wants to do all that he can to join that front 3. And Casey Davis has been exceptionally consistent all season long.
Here we go. That's the first crash. Oh, almost. That's that. You see, he lost the tip of his nose. That is why he went into the back of the 59 there, I think. And then, of course, his other mistake we already saw, adding down the backstretch. There is where he made his little trip to the grass, but thankfully for him, he was able to survive this time, and you know, making the most out of it now. Of course, he needs to have a great start after this competition caution, and then he can really fight for the podium. We know he has the pace to fight for a win.
It is really going to be a lot of fun to watch, this top five, and that's not to count out the likes of Jason Preibel and Hugh Templeman, along with Austin Olds, who, you know, despite being able to avoid some incidents, we've seen a lot of speed out of that young driver. However, the results have not fared at this portion of the series. He had some strong runs back in the March and April series that was held, looking to try to better some of those results here. Olds currently running in 8th, Connor Kelly and Cooper Gall, your top 10. But the top 5 appear to just be a tick more adapted to this tough racetrack. 13 corners in total that make up the 2.24 miles. We're going to have about an 8-lap shootout. Restart's going to come at the halfway point with Byron Daly, Salisbury, and company racing their way to turn 1, and Eli Warren not wasting any time to try to get around Davis for 4th. If he can survive that first corner, he may have the spot, and Preibel's trying to follow as well. It's going to be Davis with the preferred line, setting up for the right-hander at the keyhole, while Salisbury hunts the lead from Daly to turn 2. Caruso trying to fill the hole up the outside. Salisbury trying to get a bit of a drive. These two cars double wide up this backstretch could create something interesting. It's Daly who gets the run. Caruso trying to come up top. And look at Warren. Enter your picture in the bottom of the screen.
Oh, they go
Daly with his hands full. Oh, Caruso trying to shoot the middle. 3 wide for the lead as they approach turn 4. And Caruso sails it off into the corner and goes from 3rd to 1st in a spectacular move with Salisbury to 2nd.
Fantastic stuff. What a move.
Not quite sure how Caruso was able to nail that down, but how long can he hold the race lead as Salisbury charges up to the outside? A little bit of contact there between Salisbury and Caruso. Now Daly back up to the outside. What incredible racing at the front of the pack. And we got more cars joining the party. Davis in the mix. Preibel in the mix. Austin Olds into the mix as the top 7 are covered up with Caruso now leading. Salisbury, who set the quick time in qualifying, trying to battle back alongside of Daly, who cements second contact. Salisbury, the round 1 winner in Indy, spins in front of the pack off the final corner. May have gotten some contact from a few other cars, but Salisbury, whose strong run at the head of the pack all day long, has come undone after the halfway break, and it may have been by virtue of some contact. On board with Salisbury, and go ahead, Marco, you may have had a better look at that than I did here, but wow.
This will be the best view of maybe contact with Eli Warren. He was on his inside there, and they went for the same piece of real estate. Not a massive contact, but of course, you know, these open wheelers, you can gently, whistle on them, blow on them, and they will explode, unfortunately, you know. So what a disaster for him, and now he's of course looking to make amends as quickly as possible, as I think Cooper Gold just hit Queen Arens there on the front left. Back to the front, Carbine Caruso, Byron Daly, Eli Warren, your top 3.
Wow, so this race has pretty much turned upside down. Carmine Caruso with what is going to go down as possibly the move of the season, threading the needle at the end of the back straightaway at Mid-Ohio to go from 3rd to 1st in turn 4. That allowed him to stay in front of some of the contact that took place off the final corner. He now leads Byron Daly, the Heat 1 winner, and Eli Warren, who we can guarantee that the officials are looking over some of that contact that took place with Will Salisbury. Salisbury has plummeted back to 10th, and we got a battle for the lead in 1. Daly's going to slide his way through on Caruso over the top spot to go back to the point. Now it is Caruso left to chase, while Eli Warren tries to eat up the 1-second gap that leads back to 3rd place, with Casey Davis 1 spot shy of a podium. And the top two head off of turn number 2. And the word is, it sounds as though there will be no further actions taken with that of the contact between Warren and Salisbury. So Eli Warren, who runs third, if he can get up there and battle with the top two for the race lead and the win, that would be a legitimate fight for position, as there will be no penalty assessed to Warren, and Salisbury's got to try to battle back. Here's Caruso outside, now inside to the left-hander, and back to the lead. And here comes Warren closing it up now.
I say I agree with the judge's decision there. I think it's not MMA with the steward decision. Sorry. You know, they went for the same piece of real estate there. Racing incident, very close. And in this series, we have seen so few crashes among race leaders. We know that these guys, first of all, race hard, but very clean, incredibly clean.
And think about the championship complexion, with this being a short 4-race sprint series. After Mid-Ohio, they're going to head to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca next week. And we're going to wrap things up at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, which that's going to be a bit of a thriller. 4 different, unique, and diverse courses to make up this series. Lap car ahead. Daly doesn't care. Dives to the inside of Caruso for the lead at turn 1. This is where he got the lead a lap ago. Caruso, though, is hanging tough. And here comes Warren. Third fastest in qualifying. He's trying to do a third and first move himself as they hit the keyhole, with Caruso going back to the point. Oh, but he slid up, and that checked up Daly. Here comes Warren for the top spot. What incredible racing we are seeing with less than 5 laps to go. Up the backstretch they come, with Daly hunting the lead. Warren trying to get the lead. Daly's going to thread the needle. 3 wide for the top spot again to turn 4. And that time Caruso lifts. Oh, that's tight.
Here comes Davis.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Marco. How about Casey Davis playing the cards right, letting the top 3 jockey for position? But what impact, if any, will the lap car have as the leaders come through the S's?
Yeah, Connor Kelly is the guy in front.
Good call there, Marco. Warren to the point. They're coming up here on the backside of Kelly. As they come down Thunder Valley, they're going to be approaching the carousel, the final few corners, one of the most toughest parts of this racetrack. Warren looking for a way by. We'll see if Kelly's able to give way. Kelly pulls aside. Warren slips up big time there through the right-hander at the carousel. And we are side by side for the lead again. Warren inside as they approach turn 1. Caruso outside. Daly trying to close. Davis right there as well. And Kelly runs off the course. It gets way sideways. Going to overcorrect in front of the pack. Look out. So far, everybody's able to avoid. But wow, thank goodness that happened after the leaders got by, as Daly and Caruso are side by side for the lead again.
That was crazy stuff. Everyone dodging to avoid. Thankfully, they were a bit spread out. And they were able to avoid serious damage, but the top 4, this is going to be a fantastic finish.
If you would have told me heading into this race that the Skip Barber cars were going to put on a show at Mid-Ohio, I would not have believed you. And especially after how spread out things got at the opening stint, these drivers have figured it out. Top 4 class in the field. Will Salisbury was in the mix as well. He's back up to 8th. But it's Daly, Caruso, Warren, and Davis. Davis, a little bit of the silent killer as of right now. Been lingering around the podium. Just hasn't quite flexed much muscle or aggression to get up to the point, but that time is coming, especially the way these top 3 are hanging it out, and it's now Davis pressuring Warren for 3rd.
Let's give the audio car, sorry Eric, a little bit of camera time, especially because of his sponsor, and because again I can blame my midnight, even though 3 a.m. snack on him later.
And here they come to the line to put another lap on the board, and time is indeed running out. Davis, that time, lost a little bit of ground to the front 3. Going to need the top 3 to start mixing it up once more, but it's clear track ahead. Look at everybody using up all the available curbing as we had one car go off further back. That looked as though that was Austin Olds, who shot off the track at the exit of turn number 1. He's now back in the pit area. And we'll go back and see what happened to Austin as he came through 1. This is on board with Austin Olds to that first corner. And just caught that exit curbing there that separates the pit lane exit and went way wide, almost ended up on the back straightaway before he got it woed down. As we now go back to the front, and Eli Warren starting to make some noise. That's Warren, who just got by Caruso, who tries to battle back, but Warren holds the spot. Daly still your leader. Not sure about you, Mark, but it looks as though there might be a little bit of damage there to Eli Warren's car. Is that just my picture, or is there in fact some damage to the front nose cone of that number 19?
No, he's missing the front nose cone, and he's the only one to have that kind of damage. I've seen other cars with the damage there. I think, yeah, Warren lost it in the, if you remember, in the first lap when he touched Bane Bennett after the first corner. You know, that's the, you know, best damage you can have with the skip, in a sense that, you know, anything else slows you down, or you know, makes you faster on the straight but slower in the corner, of course. But that is pretty negligible. You can go on without it, without an issue. Anything more than that, it starts to get problematic. But he's in good shape, as you can see. 36.0, fastest lap of the race.
So from 12th to 2nd, now maybe to the lead, a spot in which Warren has held once already today, now taking it back through the right-hander at the keyhole. That's Eli Warren to the point. Caruso and Daly side by side for 2nd. Davis just a ways back there in 4th. While Salisbury, the points leader coming into this race, has worked his way back up to 7th. We're watching the front three accordion back together with a lap and a half to go at Mid-Ohio. Is it going to be Daly, the reigning champion of the eSports series, who darts to the inside? Eli Warren, the third fastest qualifier, who got shuffled out in the heat? Or Carmine Caruso, one of the fastest drivers at Indy, who did not have the result that he may have hoped for, despite finishing 2nd, was at the top of the charts all session long, had to settle for a runner-up finish, does not want to do it again. That is the story at the front of the pack, while Casey Davis is trying to play the role of the spoiler, and this battle for 2nd is allowing Warren to break away.
Yes, and you're exactly right. And also, you know, usually when we go to the Rovals, you can really, you know, wait for the last corner to make your move. Not here. You need to make the move early, because you see there is basically barely 100 yards worth of front stretch there. So yeah, this is great news for Eli Warren, because he has 0.8 of a second. He needs to defend very nicely on this backstretch, and then he should be okay, barring a crazy lunge in the final portion of the lap. But this fight for 2nd really helped him out.
We are in the final lap at Mid-Ohio for the 2nd race of 4 in the A-Maxx Racing Esports Series with the World Karting Association, presented by Summit Racing Equipment. And perhaps the best passing opportunity lies ahead for Carmine Caruso, and he's not quite close enough. Going to try to close up here. How aggressive will Daly be to try to get to 2nd, as this is all going on about 0.6 of a second behind that of Eli Warren, as 2nd, 3rd, and 4th tighten up. However, that was a great corner by Caruso. This race may not be over with a half lap to go. Warren now through the right-hander after starting back in 12th. Some visible damage on the front nose cone of that car. Caruso, who made a bold move to go from 3rd to 1st to take the lead. Whoa, hang on! Warren slides off track. Able to keep the momentum going down Thunder Valley for the final time. Just a few corners left to go. It's going to be the last drive through the carousel to turn 12. Caruso trying to close off the final corner, and the charge for the pack is going to pay off after surviving multiple incidents on the opening lap. Eli Warren goes from 12th to 1st to win the 2nd race of the 2020 Summer Series of the Esports Series with the WKA, presented by Summit.
What a race, Eric. Absolutely fantastic comeback. And then, of course, that scary moment in the very end, at the very end of the race in the final lap. Great car control from Eli Warren. Let's appreciate it again. And really, people that don't know iRacing, I can tell you the grass is basically just like ice nowadays. So this is an incredible piece of car control. See, he didn't panic, kept the wheel straight, a little bit of a correction, and back onto the racing surface. Exceptionally well done.
Kept his foot in it, and the young driver out of Louisville, Kentucky, kept his foot to the pedal and did not lift at all, despite getting all four tires off into the dirt and having some very strong competitors on his backside in the waning few corners. And it is Eli Warren who kept his composure despite having multiple crashes in front of him on the first lap, despite making contact with Will Salisbury, the round one winner, in a race for second off the final corner that was deemed a racing incident. And despite having so many strong drivers, including that of Carmine Caruso, who settles for second again, unofficially by my calculator, that may put Caruso in the championship points lead at the halfway point of this four-race series. And Byron Daly, in his first race of this series, did not make the trip at Indy due to work commitments, comes home in third. The heartbreaker there, though, is that he led at the white flag lap and has to settle for that final spot on the podium.
Another attempt at some donuts with this car. We've seen it plenty of times in the series, but as you can see, basically impossible. Tell you what, I will give $100 to anyone who can pull some donuts with this car on the tarmac. The grass, the gravel, they don't count. And we are still waiting for a car to give you the results. It's the number 10 of Queen Errands, and after this, the results will come to you straight away.
And as Aarons does in fact come to the checkered flag, we'll now have an opportunity to look at the results following this. Again, race number 2 of the Summer Series, the A-Maxx Racing eSports Series presented by Summit Racing Equipment. And what a thriller. I mean, Eli Warren started 12th, finishes P1 with a pass towards the end of the race with Carmine Caruso coming home in second. That is 2 second-place finishes for Caruso to kick off this esports series. Sounds very similar to what Will Salisbury had to go through towards the latter stages of the March and April series that we had. And Byron Daly, the reigning champion of the A-Maxx Racing esports series, in his first start in this summer stretch, finishes in third. Casey Davis was in the mix all race long. I mean, at one point it looked as though just kind of maybe waiting for the top three to tangle or somebody to make a mistake that would open the door for Davis to get up on the podium. Came up one spot shy, but was in contention throughout. A very strong run. And how about Tim Huss, who was involved in an incident early? The competition yellow helped him get back up there. Remember, he finished third at Indy to kick things off. Now has 2 top 5 finishes to kind of kickstart this summer stretch for the esports series with WK. Jason Pryble 6. Will Salisbury, who was the Indy winner, championship point leader, spun out of second spot, fell all the way back to 10th, was able to pick up 3 spots in the latter stages to finish 7th. Bane Bennett involved in an opening lap incident, back up to the 8th spot. Adam Maxwell, who went for that spectacular ride in turn number 1, got the car repaired, caught the competition yellow before he went a lap down, came back up to 9th. Hugh Templeman is your top 10. Cooper Gall, Quinn Aarons, Connor Kelly, and Austin Olds round out your 14-car field for, again, this the second race of 4 with WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, our next stop on the calendar, scheduled to take place in 1 week's time, again at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Apex Racing TV.
Okay, seems like we have 3 drivers waiting for us in the interview waiting room. I don't think we have our race winner just yet, but you know, Eric, you have 3 drivers to pick from, so go ahead.
Well, let's take a look at what we got in here as I navigate my way back to see who we have waiting in the wings. Would like an opportunity to talk to Carmine Caruso after that runner-up finish, second runner-up finish that he's had thus far. And we bring Carmine in here, and Carmine, I'll tell you what, after the run that you had at Indy, where you were fast throughout every session we had, practice, qualifying, just kind of wrong place, wrong time throughout. Thought when you made that 3-wide move for the lead at the end of the back straightaway that this one was going to be yours. Are you satisfied with the second place finish, or do you really, really want to be P1 when all is said and done, irregardless of how the championship points may fall?
Well, I mean, it's like you say, regardless of how the championship points fall, I mean, I would love to be P1, but, well, first I got to give a special shout out to Eli Warren. Man, the guy came out of nowhere, and we all put on a great race. I'm so thankful to the WKA for doing this. But when I went for that 1 3-wide move, I said, and I thought back to Daytona, of last season, and I said I can't let this happen again. I don't want to be taken out for, excuse me, a second season in a row. So I had to back off there, and you know what? I was just grateful that we came out with the P2 today.
Now, we saw the speed emulate again, almost similar fashion, very quick in qualifying, although I understand that Salisbury got pole, Daly was right there, but you were in the mix as well. I mean, top three were covered up. In fact, Warren was third fastest in the qualifying session, just got swept up in an incident early in Heat 1. But for you to kind of be up there and mixing it up with these guys, I mean, does that kind of offer a little bit of validation, even though, second, knowing that you could run with some of these guys, Daly, the outgoing champion, Salisbury, the round one winner. I mean, and even your charge back at Indy up to that second place finish, it's kind of got to give you a bit of confidence, even though the remaining two races on this schedule, WeatherTech and the Roval at Charlotte, kind of vary. What is your confidence level right now heading into those final two races?
So Laguna Seca is definitely not one of my most favorite tracks. And my coach Adam Rylance, PSL Northeast driver, he would know this because my first race was actually at Laguna Seca on iRacing, and I didn't end up doing too well. So I never really had confidence going into Laguna Seca. But going towards the Charlotte Roval, that probably was my most favorite track from last season. It definitely provided for great racing. Even both tracks provide for great racing. And I don't know, we're gonna. Oh boy, I'm just so shaken up after that one last race. It's just the adrenaline's pumping. But I know Will, Byron, myself, Eli, we're all gonna put on a great show for the WKA, and you know what? We're gonna hopefully do what we got to do, and we'll see who comes out at the end.
Well, we really appreciate that, Carmine, and we'd like some more time with you. We want to try to run through a couple other people if we can. However, thank you so much for partaking in this and also for just providing such a thriller at the front of the pack, and we wish you the best of luck in the remaining two races as well, my friend.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Again, that is Carmine Caruso, second again in the second race of the season, unofficially going to take over the championship points lead. And Marco, looks like we got about 3 minutes left. Let's try to talk to Byron Daly, and if we get through that quick enough, maybe we'll talk to Will Salisbury and get his thoughts on the incident that kicked him down the running order. Byron, first race of this stretch. Welcome back, my friend. Third place finish in contention for the win. Not the result you've hoped for, but you said going into this race you were a little concerned, wasn't quite sure if you're driving nature was going to fit with the Skip Barber car at Mid-Ohio. You satisfied with the podium finish?
Actually, I'm a little disappointed in myself having the lead there and giving it up like I did. Yeah, it takes a little bit to get used to this car. It drives like different from most of the other open wheelers on the service. So you just got to kind of get back in the groove of things. And fortunately, I was able to find that again in that qualifying session. Just kind of came up shy of the pole lap there. But yeah, the race overall, man, I wish I was able to bring home the win there. I kind of played a little too nice there with my overtakes, and then I kind of tried a little too hard to fend off for second position and let Eli get away. So kind of wish I could do it over again, but it is what it is.
Now, we know that you had work commitments that took you out of race one. We've got two races left to go in the next two Wednesday nights. As we mentioned with Carmine, WeatherTech and Charlotte Roval. Are you thinking just go out and win? Championship still at the forefront of your mind a little bit, especially after seeing what happened to Will. What's your agenda for the next two races, if you can make it, considering how work may be looking for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it's just going to be if I'm here, I'm going to try to go for race wins. I don't think championship-wise I'll be in the picture just because it's hard to make up a race over guys as consistent as Will, and Carmine's running really well. So if I came out here today with a race win, I could have said maybe I could pull a rabbit out of my hat, but it's going to be hard to do with a third place already on the board and a 0-point score for the first race. So it's just going to be about race wins, try to do what I can, and see what happens.
Well, we appreciate you coming out. Congrats on the strong run. And again, your first race of this series, and we'll see what you have in store for the last two rounds. Again, Byron Daly, our third place finisher. Good luck, Byron. We'll see you next week. And Marco, depending on how we're doing on time, I know we're at 9 o'clock here. Let's see how much. Are we pretty much out of time here? Do we have one more chance to squeak in a conversation with Will before we get it going?
Well, Will Salisbury is all yours.
All right, so Will, this is something I wanted to try to be able to do here. We know that you were the round one winner at Indy. We saw the contact with the eventual race winner in Eli Warren. Real quick, if you don't mind, what are your thoughts? Racing deal, in your opinion, or do you think maybe that's one that's going to stick out in your mind, or is that just a product how heavy you guys are racing at the front?
Yeah, I think that's just a racing deal and getting overexcited. A little too early in the race there. I was just talking to the other two about that. Is that for the most part, week to week, we show up and we run with the same guys, and you generally know who's going to be up front. Carmine, and when Byron shows up, he's going to be quick. So you can kind of count on that. And after the way qualifying and the heat went and the start of this race, it was kind of you know who you're running with. And we were talking about is that like every race there seems to be one guy that is a dark horse, an underdog that shows up and is just quick at that particular track for whatever reason, and that you've never raced with, so you don't really know if they're gonna what they race like. So it was a racing deal. I knew as soon as I made the move on Carmine there, going out of the keyhole, going too wide, and we made some contact and got away with it. Thankfully, I thought we had damaged both of our cars, but it was sort of too late to back out. I wanted to back out and just fall in line, but I had two cars that were side by side behind me, so I'm like, well, I can't really back out of this, and it just snowballed from there. And I sort of turned in on him, and he sort of stuck his nose in there, and it just didn't work out. But it made for a good show, at least I hope. The other alternative would have just been everyone running side by side like the beginning of or nose to tail like the beginning of the race and just kind of check out. So at least it made it exciting from a championship perspective. It's not the result I was hoping for, but I'm at least happy I was able to grab the pole and be up front for the heat race. So we'll take what we got and move on to the next one.
And that kind of led into my last and final question, because I know Markham and company are running up against the clock here. With Byron not running the first race, with Eli not running as well as he has yet, with you having a little bit of misfortune, I mean, Carmine Caruso with the back-to-back second-place finish, he's currently the guy to beat at the moment. But as we've seen with his struggles in the heat race at Indy, with your struggles here today, there's plenty of opportunity for mistakes. Are your sights still set on the championship, or are you kind of going to take the approach that you'll just take it race by race and let the points fall where they may? What's your agenda heading into these last two races?
Well, certainly going into this race, that was on my agenda was championship points, and I think I talked about it at the last interview. Is just making mistakes is what's going to cost you, and that's was on my mind every single lap up until that restart, and then it just kind of all went out the window. So yeah, it is what it is, and certainly I think minimalizing mistakes and is going to be important for the next couple of races. But that being said, you just got to take it race to race and see how the chips fall. And he's been quick, and we know who's up at the top, and we know who's quick. So I'm going to give it my best, but if he edges it out, then so be it, and that's rightfully so. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the next one we can have a little better luck.
Well, we can't thank you enough. You come home 7th spot unofficially. Still batting 500 on the season, though, after the win in Indy. So we'll see what the rest of the season has in store for you. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us after what was a disappointing result and what looked to be another very strong performance out of you and your team. And again, Will Salisbury, a 7th-place finisher. Thank you so much again, Will, and we'll see you next week at Laguna Seca.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And again, that is Will Salisbury, the only driver we did not get a chance to talk to, young Eli Warren out of Louisville, Kentucky, who ended up grabbing the win. Second winner on the season in 2 races. And as we talked about, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca next week. And we are going to wrap things up at the Charlotte Roval in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be giving out our championship prizes. And again, thank you to all of our partners who make this possible. Marco, hopefully I got through that fast enough in order for us to break out of here on time. But nevertheless, thanks for giving us a little bit of extra air opportunity to kind of fuel some of the storylines we're going to be following as the season winds down.
Absolutely, no problem, Eric. It's pleasure. Especially we had so much. At this series, even though it's short races, we always have every time so much to talk about, and today was no different. So no issues with a little bit of overrun, and I think that I say and I speak on your behalf as well that I cannot wait for the next one, because of course Laguna Seca, in a sense, it has similarities to this. Elevation changes very narrow, but of course each track plays a little bit differently, and we'll see. I'm expecting maybe track temperatures to be a bit higher, depending on when we get time of day for the race. But Laguna Seca, of course, historically has a bit more heat than Mid-Ohio, and that's going to be a fantastic race once again. So yeah, can't wait for next week.
I'm genuinely looking forward to it as well. But fortunately for you and I, it's just about Oreo time. So with that, we will step aside and turn our attention to WeatherTech Raceway. I was about to say Mazda Raceway. I was about to date myself there a little bit. WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Again, on-air time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Next Wednesday night, it'll be our third race. So 4 more prizes on the line, more pictures and pieces are going to fall into place on how things are going to pan out as part of the championship. And again, you can catch it all here on Apex Racing TV as we wind down the A-Maxx Racing eSports Series presented by the World Karting Association and our friends at Summit Racing Equipment. So on behalf of Marco Barbanera, I'm Eric Brennan. We'll see you all back here next week as we roll on with more racing under the WKA banner. We'll see who will be the next driver to go to victory lane and who's going to come out of here with the championship to wrap up this summer series. Till next time, we'll see you then. Good night, everybody.